Hello there, this is MediMarx, and I'm going to play some Hearts of Iron 3. I know I've done a bit of it on my channel in the past, but it annoys me that I haven't actually finished a game. And also, I tried to keep some of the stuff I know to a minimum, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that, because that's a pretty interesting thing for me to offer. To a playthrough of this game. So I'm gonna do a custom start as the Soviet Union, keep everything on medium, and it'll probably be pretty easy. Well, we'll see, I guess. Keep all this normal. I'm not gonna mess with the technology, even though. So like, here's a couple things that annoy me. Airborne infantry isn't a thing that the Soviet Union has, although they did experiment on it. Pretty early. They were one of the first countries to mess around with it. The same goes for a lot of the fighter and bomber technologies. They'd already sort of dealt with this already. They also were putting a lot of effort into cruisers during the 30s because Stalin was jealous mainly about the naval treaty in London, and also because they were fairly certain that there was going to be a conflict with Japan in the near future. Agriculture is at a fairly high level. That probably shouldn't be the case. But, you know, you never know. A lot of these doctrines don't make any sense. And, you know, those are just some basic criticisms there. But I'm going to leave all that the same. And now we have the giant OOB. This disaster. So, custom battles allow you to change all of this. So I've got rid of all my generals. I'm going to just select everybody and delete all of it. Because it's a hot mess over there. So then I'm going to collect our HQs, the highest level theater commands. Or maybe I'm going to fail spectacularly at it. Alright, there we go. And go get the Far East Theater, wherever it's hiding out at. There we go. So, in real life they did use a lot of theater commands, but for me it's way too complicated to have a whole bunch of theater commands, so I'm not going to mess with it, and I'm just going to put it all under Stavka. Because that's the simplest way to go. And in order to get rid of those theater commands that I don't want, I have to go into the AI theater mapper thing and get rid of all of that. And then we'll be able to get rid of all of these HQs that we don't want. Alright, we're done there. So, first things to show that I'm not a giant cheat. Go into divisions. And so, Hearts of Iron 2, which I might... I'll go ahead and put a playthrough up of that at some point. You only build set division types. This game lets you build your own divisions. I'm going to make a lot of pretty weak infantry divisions. 25, in fact. And that'll be our Eastern Theater. The thing about 25 divisions here is that they won't be able to actually stop the Japanese from getting in, but they'll delay them significantly, and it is possible that the Japanese will attack me for no reason. So you just try and abate that as much as possible and see where we've got that I can sort of skimp a little bit on the troops. And that looks like that's about all that we're gonna need to skimp. I'm gonna put 3 groups down there just in case. They'll be moving into Mongolia at a fairly early date, and then we'll stack up our cities out here just in case and send our air units to Moscow for sorting. This will be kind of as if I streamed, I guess. So yeah, we'll get rid of that guy, move him over there. We'll get the other stuff sorted out eventually. Where'd you go? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do our air unit. Well, no. So another unique thing about the Eastern Theater during this time is that Vladivostok actually had a mountain division. that was sort of its own little special thing. So just for funsies, I'm gonna give them that, and also some garrison divisions, because those, they don't really move or fight particularly well, but they'll cover our cities and our port there in Vladivostok. So that is the end of the Eastern Theater, more or less. So I'll sort our air units real quick, just to get it all taken care of, and move them all to Moscow. And we don't need any air forces assigned to the east, because they'll just fly there if they are needed. And then I'll give you a quick example of how an OOB is set up and what all the stuff about it is, just here in this starter video, because that's pretty good stuff if you ever want to like learn to play yourself, or maybe you accidentally bought the game at some point and you maybe regret your decision. So we'll get these guys, they're 5 guys, make a corps out of them and scoot the corps command over. I'm just going to try and make little groups here and there that sort of sort stuff out in a way that pleases me, and also expose them to the coast. But obviously the majority of the Japanese army is going to be in Korea and Manchuria. This is actually an independent country called Manchukuo. It's not really independent. It's sort of a government that was ruled by the Japanese army. Japan invaded Korea and Manchuria earlier. That's what this green and all the yellow is. Or the gold or yellow. Actual China is this like lighter yellow. So we've got that taken care of. Also there's Toyohara. I guess I should probably put troops there. We'll take these guys away. And there we go. So Toyohara is actually still part of Russia, and there's oil there now, they discovered. So it's a pretty happy little place for Russia. And just going to try and keep grouping this stuff up in a way that is at least mildly logical, I guess. I doubt that we'll get any sort of... Okay, that's good enough. And then those guys. Alright, so those are corps commands. Now I need to set up army commands. And we'll just start attaching everything as I can. I moved Stavka out here, I don't know why. Go back home, Stavka. Alright, Far Eastern Theater. Well, oh well, we'll take care of those problems in a little bit. There we go, problem solved. Alright. And these guys are going to have to be attached directly to the theater, I imagine, because there's like no way we'll communicate with them. I don't think these guys can... Oh, look at that. So we've got an army here. That's the army. We'll make another army over this way. Nah, it's busted. There we go. Unbusted. Haha. And busted. Unbusted. Alright. Perfect. Now I just need to make a theater command. Or an army group, rather. Alright, scoop these guys out here so they fit. Second army. Alright, perfect. And then Far Eastern Theater. Okay, so we've got this all set up now. Everybody's happy. And in the interim, since we're not fighting a war in the first 2 years at least, I'm only going to assign generals here at the start. Also, as the Soviet Union, it's kind of a pain to assign generals because you get an option to kill a whole bunch of them. As long as Stalin is alive. And so why waste time, you know, putting your file cards in the right place if it's not going to accomplish anything. So there we go. We'll give him Georgy Zhukov. The reason I do that is because he's the highest skill general we got. I also know that he's not likely to die in the purges at all, so he'll still be around and I can just remove him. The reason I do it is because skill at the at the army group level makes your supplies more efficient, so all these guys are gonna be consuming less supplies on average. And then we'll go down to the army level, and I'm gonna give them... I'm just gonna assign random generals here that are all supply related. So you can sort your junk here. Logistics wizard is what we want. And I don't really care about skill level, so we're just gonna stick them on out here and just try and make life as good as possible. I'll probably put them on at the core level too, just because money saving arrangements. A lot of these old, the star here, Oldgar, they lose experience, or cause your troops not to gain it as fast. A lot of these guys die in the purges, so there's that, right? And all of them under fairly tragic circumstances, I should add. Alright, so that'll make it about as good as it's gonna get for supply, and then the only thing left to do is break up these submarines. So when they're in a big unit like this, they only move as fast as their slowest unit, which is bad, because they won't go as far. So I need to break these up at least into groups by crappiest. I can tell in this menu which ones are the crappiest by the number, so those are ones. So they get to be their own little thing. And then I don't like having groups of 3 submarines, so those guys get to be an independent unit. And then we'll detach it and attach it at the army group level so that they get that supply bonus, supply efficiency bonus. Okay, that should be everything. No, I lied. Alright, no, that's wrong. Alright, so there we go. We finished that. That's how you set up a command, chain of command and everything. You can be a lot more specific, and obviously you won't assign generals willy-nilly, but this is the start of the game and it's not that important at this particular moment. So I like to do the smallest ones first. So now we've got our caucus command, and that's, I'm gonna give that to the Stalingrad HQ. They're gonna go live near Baku. The important thing down here is this area right here, Baku, which is currently not part of Russia. You've got a lot of countries down in here like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, so on and so forth, all across basically the whole upper border of the Middle East. Turkmenistan, all that, Kazakhstan. Anyhow, so, and Crimea, which has been in the news quite a lot, and so we'll be chilling down here. I'm not going to assign a terrible amount of troops down here because it's unlikely that they'll be needed, but you never know. So we'll give them 9 divisions. And the way I like to sort these out is just put them where valuable stuff is. Like, there's a city there. And then we fully protect, even though these guys are in junky supply areas, I like to fully protect Baku as much as possible. And also this river line, because we need to keep, at all costs, Baku from being harmed in any way, shape, or form. And then over here on the other side, we build, 3 divisions, and that should more or less solve any potential Iranian problems. and we're all set. So then I just set that one up. I'm not going to bore you with the setting up of this particular command because I already showed you how to do it. Okay, and we'll stick a garrison unit in Baku and attach him to a random core. Okay, there we go. So now we've sorted out the Stalingrad HQ area, and mostly just for defense. Not going to be a whole lot, but Baku is very important. And if historically the Nazis did get down into this area, they got stopped by these, you can see them there, these mountains basically. Was where they got hung up. But had they managed to get Baku, that would have put the Soviets in a pretty nasty place where they were kind of missing out on most of the oil that they had access to at the time. So that would have been very problematic. But yeah, so there we go. We've finished there. Now, I could go a little more ham and assign each of these divisions a logistics wizard general or something of the sort, but I'm not. I don't want it to take that long. So now all I need to do is set up for my first offensive operation, which will be in the future against Finland. So I just want to build the armies already that I know I'm going to need for that, so that we're ready to go. And I need 15 of these light tank divisions. Just go ahead and construct all that stuff. Alright, and then some infantry with artillery attached. This is a little metagamey because I don't have to move the stuff, but it's just going to save me time later. So I'm just trying to show, what the heck is Archangelisk? Oh. How did he get missed by when I did the big collection? Oh well. Go away, Archangelisk. Alright. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2 divisions down here to hang out. Or 2 corps. And that should be sufficient for now. And then one last set of divisions here. Okay, and I'll go right about there. Okay, happy days. That's all done and over with. Now I'm gonna put garrison units down in my major cities. Because the AI, it turns out, has the ability to be really gamey, and especially when it comes to your capital and major cities. So you need to make sure there are garrison units in major ports, major cities, anything like that, because they may just show up and take away all of your stuff. So, you know, Moscow, Odessa, Sevastopol, Kiev, Minsk. And then that should do it for there. Alright, yeah, so those will be around just in case. And then I'll probably build, you know, 3 more and keep them in Moscow just for future use. Make life a little easier. And then we're gonna, you know, build a command structure over here for all of this stuff. So I won't show you that. Alright, so I assigned everything to an army group over here for Finland. In the future, I assign my entire air force to it so they get the benefits of the supply from Vasilevsky, and I'm gonna attach my navy to it as well, in the north anyways. So we'll sort those out too, and also I like for funsies, because a lot of what navies do in the game isn't modeled, or rather, a lot of what navies do in real life isn't modeled in the game, besides like fighting and stuff, which is the obvious answer of what a navy does. So I like to stick the historical Soviet commanders onto their appropriate fleets, even if they're not necessarily the optimal choice, just because it doesn't really matter ultimately as far as the game goes. Well, the appropriate naval commander is not yet available for the Arctic fleet here. So again, I'm gonna sort these out by type because I don't want the junk submarines holding down the not quite so junky submarines. Alright, happy days. And of course we gotta attach, all those come pre-attached, so. And then we gotta sort out this mess over here with our submarines. I like putting subs in groups of 2. And the reason for that is if a submarine gets sunk and it's got one admiral assigned to it, again, an admiral wouldn't be on a submarine, but for the purpose of the game they are. If it's only one submarine and it gets sunk, that admiral dies. Whereas with 2 submarines, one will sink, they run away, you still have your admiral. Which is nice. In the real war, they weren't too effective, were the submarines, because when the war started, they found out that the Germans had mined this whole area here, and since the whole Navy was in Leningrad, they couldn't really get out. The other thing was they stored a whole bunch of the army in Tallinn, and so they still couldn't get out. They had a few people in Laipia, I don't know how to say it, in Latvia, but the port there was very small and they weren't really ready to accommodate the Soviet Navy. And it also put them in a lot of danger because that's pretty close to where the German border ended up being. And you don't want your navy to be, ultra close to the enemy there. So that pleases me. I'm probably gonna stick some guys on the army groups just for funsies. Again, none of this really matters. It's just cutting the costs of the early game. They're not gonna stay there. I'm gonna shuffle everybody around. Alright, so there we go. We're done. And I'm gonna stick reserve artillery and anti-tank units along the border. Just because. And they'll be there for later use. I'm not gonna assign them to any command structure, so there'll be a drain on our economy. But that doesn't really terribly concern me because I already stacked up all the other stuff so much. And I got some artifacting, but that's part of OBS. And anti-tanks, need those. I like to put them in the south because this is all like plains, and that's where tanks are meant to be used, so I'd rather not have my southern area overrun. Alright, so there we go. I like to put mountain divisions in that little region there. In Kodjima. I think it's Kolmaya, actually, but I don't know the map that well relative to how, the sort of map that they've used to model this area. So we need 15 mountain divisions. They fight better in hills, so this is like a last line of defense for the southern front, or at least eventually. Well, see, I can't talk and think at the same time, so I built way too many of these units. I only want, 1 per square and not a million. Okay, went a little too ham there, but we're good now. And then the other major problem for the Soviets in this sort of how the game is built sort of thing is they don't have very many airfields that are particularly useful. So I need to amend that problem. And I like to do it in the early game because it's much faster. Alright, so we're all set there, and then for historical reasons, oh well, I don't know why I didn't put a division there. I like to slap a cavalry division down. They had a lot more cavalry in real life, but they're kind of expensive and hard to use in this game, so I just build one and have them there for funsies, just as a little reference. to what went on for real. Okay, and so now we have all these points left sitting around, and I like to do things that they ought to be part of the starting OOB, and that's transports. They ought very much to be included in these fleets. There's no way that they didn't have military transports. And then we'll drop some destroyers. So you need 2 screens for every capital ship. There are 2 capital ships in this, and I need 4 destroyers. So there, we solved that little problem. And I need to sort this fleet out. Alright, and that one's already ready to go. So it's a viable fleet already. So we're all set. Now I have 8,000 points left to screw around with. I guess we'll just build, you know, some divisions. Okay, now we're ready to start the game. So that's how I like to set up the opening. I kind of do it the same way every time, but that more or less should clear it and take care of most of the difficulties of the early game. I haven't really decided how I'm going to edit that opening portion since this isn't a stream and I can't like talk to you and stuff. So I'll deal with it the best way I can, try and make it at least halfway interesting and add some of the game music in. This obviously doesn't represent at all the Soviet Army as it was in 1936. There are some documents on that, but again, the way that they constructed divisions, it's not very easily modeled in the game.